Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. Hey, Magic Makers, today's conversation might make you squirm just a little bit. Maybe you are that parent that is wondering, how the hell do I get Johnny off the payroll? Or maybe you're not there yet and you're still quietly covering your adult kids' bills, telling yourself it's only temporary, you're just helping them out. You lived off of ramen, you counted gas money a few dollars at a time, and you figured out adulting the hard way. And you don't want that for your kid. You don't want that struggle. Fair. I get it. I've been there. But there is this fine line between helping them and just doing it for them. And today I am talking to career coach and longtime recruiter Liz Lewine about what she's seeing with teens and young adults trying to enter the workforce and adulthood. And the one question that she asked me that I haven't stopped thinking about since our conversation was like, at what point does it stop helping? So let's get into it. This week's iTunes review is brought to you by ML Martel. She writes, 5 stars. Kim is more than just knowledgeable in just health and fitness. She is supportive, reassuring, and on the level. She gives it to you straight, just the way most people need it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate that review. And you too can review Fit Girl Magic Podcast. Just go to iTunes or wherever you subscribe to this show and just leave me a 5-star review. I love them. I take them to heart. I just want to make sure that I'm bringing you the best stuff. So thank you so much for all of you who have left me a review so far. I can't wait to highlight you. Magic Makers, today is going to be one of those conversations that might make you squirm a little bit, but also it's one that you need to hear this, because if you're a parent of a teen or a young adult, or probably going to be one at some point, you might ask yourself this question: am I helping or am I making this harder for them in the long term? And listen, this isn't parent shaming at all. This is just awareness, because a lot of us were never taught to let go in a way that feels supportive. So maybe we overhelp, we overgive, we step in a little bit too much. And before you know it, we're paying bills, editing resumes, hell, maybe even sitting in on job interviews. Today, I got Liz Lewine here, and she is a career coach, and she sees it all. She's been doing it for 20 years, and she is really passionate about how do we as parents send our kids off into the world without feeling like we just pushed them off of a cliff. So Liz, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Hi. Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, Liz and I have met at a couple of networking events, and just what she was talking about, and I see my friends who are now, most of my friends' kids are now have either graduated college or in the about to graduate college, and I see that a lot of them are just like, finding a job today is like really hard, or like rent costs $5 million, and you just don't really know like really what to do with your kid or how to really help them. And then a lot of these kids are just going back to school and racking up more debt. So like, what are you noticing right now with teens and the young adults entering the workforce?
So I'm noticing that they're really not prepared. And so not only am I a career and life coach for teenagers and young adults, but I've spent my entire career in the corporate world as a recruiting consultant, talent advisor for big entertainment companies, media companies, tech, startup, etc. And so I have interviewed thousands and thousands of people and hired thousands of people. And it's shocking to me how many people don't pass my interview to get to my hiring teams.
Let me ask you a question. At what point did our lives become this giant game of productivity Jenga? Somewhere between driving your family here, there, and everywhere, the endless piles of laundry, remembering everything for everybody, and literally being there for everybody. A lot of us Gen X ladies, we got really good at managing our lives, but we forgot to participate. And it didn't happen in this big, dramatic, table flipping, Real Housewives moment. It was a little bit quieter. We thought connection meant I liked your Facebook posts, and fun, well, that's something on my someday list. And then that someday list kept getting longer and longer and longer. So I created a short quiz. What part of your life have you been blowing off? And it's to really help you understand where in your life we need to take a little bit more rest. Where do we actually need true connection? Where do we need to have a little bit more fun? And maybe just feel like you again. So head up into the show notes and click the link for this free quiz. And then do me a favor. Tell me what showed up for you. And so when you say they're not prepared, like what does that mean? Like if I'm a parent and I'm listening, I'm like, what do you mean my kid's not prepared? Like they graduated top of their class. Like what do you mean they're not prepared?
Yeah. So it is so not just about a degree. It really isn't. Like, I'll give you an example. When I was at Spotify in 2022, my hiring teams cared less about a degree and more about, do they have the it factor? Do they have all the soft skills? That's what I'm talking about. Like, do they know how to interview? Do they know how to be a professional in the workforce? Do they know, do they have the grit? Do they have the passion, the transparency? Do they have a growth mindset? Because here's the reality: companies don't want to backfill because it costs money, and all that training that they put in is going to the wayside if they have to backfill. And so a lot of companies now are backfilling because the people are not in the right roles and they don't know really what it takes to be an employee.
Gotcha. And, it's interesting because I see parents, like, you're just like, I really want to help Johnny, right? I want to be there. Like, I want to be, for lack of a better word, I feel like our generation, our parents kind of at some point, like, detached and said, like, I got you to this point and now it's your job. But I still see a lot of parents still really involved, like paying bills, helping with job searches, sometimes even like, going to the interview. I mean, I know it all comes from love, but like where
it's helicoptering.
Right. So where do we find that, like, I'm still going to be here for you, but I'm not going to be like driving you to work and waking you up?
So it's really about empowering them, because I don't know about you, but me, like my parents, they didn't do anything for for us. They didn't. It wasn't about fixing the problem. I see a lot of parents today wanting to fix the problem. Like, oh my gosh, you got a D on your exam. I am going to march into the principal's office and demand that they change the grade and you do the test over. Like, that's like, it's all about they're trying to fix the problem instead of helping their kid build some resilience.
Right.
I mean, that's what it is. Like, one of the things so many people have said about me is that I'm very, very resilient.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of trauma in my childhood, but my parents didn't fix it. I had to work through it. So now when things come up in life or in the professional world, I have a thicker skin.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I remember when I was a kid and, something would go wrong at school and I'd be like, Mrs. So-and-so, blah, 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 blah. And then my mom would be like, well, what'd you do? And then I would be like, instead of like being like, Mrs. So-and-so is wrong. And it's not that she didn't have my back. She was just kind of like, I need to hear both sides of the story before I rush to judgment. And you're right. Like, if you half-assed it at me as a teacher, and especially my friends who are teachers, they're like, girl, like, you didn't fucking do the work. So
exactly.
like, how am I to like not give you a D? Like, I laid it out. You got to do these 10 steps. You did 8.
Exactly. But like, I'm going to give you another example. And this drove me crazy. Multiple times when I was at Spotify and even when I was at NBC Universal, I would get in mails from LinkedIn, like parents apparently were saying, "Oh my God, I saw this great role. My son would be amazing. He's perfect for the position. Can you tell me more about it?" And I'm like, "Oh, your son can be proactive and reach out to me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
what are we doing here,
So,
folks?"
so if I'm listening to this and maybe I'm that mom or maybe I have been like thinking about doing that, like how do I like find that like fine line of being like helping support my children, but at the same time like you said, empowering them, encouraging them to be like, "Hey, I saw this great job, like go for it."
So yeah, so again, like I'll give an example of my dad. Okay, my dad is he is an entrepreneur, but he also was an entertainment himself. He's a businessman. He has his MBA in journalism from Columbia, that dual program. And I will never forget when I was kind of floundering myself. Like I was doing a lot of internships. I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to get there. And he sat me down, and I was living in San Francisco, independent, flew the nest. And
Mm.
I'm from Los Angeles, and he was here in LA. And he called me. He's like, "We need to talk. How do we get you to start to get like like I was interning, right? So at
Gotcha.
that
So
time,
how do you
it was
stop like
not paid.
circling around and like land
Yeah,
on
circling around
something?
a drain. And the thing is like I was interning. I wanted to be a sportscaster. I was interning for the San Francisco Giants at the time. It was unpaid, but at the time, that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
And I kept finding other people jobs, like my ex-boyfriend, my friends, and he's like,
For the love of
"Yo,
God.
Liz." Yeah. Yeah. He's like, "Yo, Liz, have you ever thought about the employment industry?" And I was like, "What? No." And so he kind of put that in my thought process, right? Because
Right.
he's like, "Hey, check it out." Now, I'm going to date myself, but we had no internet. This
Oh
was like
yeah.
Yellow Pages. And so he's like, "Have you ever he's like, "Have you ever thought about doing this as a profession?" And so he was supportive, but not fixing it, not giving and not reaching out to people, being like, "You need to meet with my daughter." Like he was very much like, "Here is what I know, and this is what I just want to see if this even sounds interesting to you."
Right,
And so
right.
I did my own little research, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm doing this for free with my friends right now. I'm getting everyone jobs. So yeah, I want to do this. I think I'd be really good at it." And I swear to God, I cold called every temp agency in San Francisco, and I got my first job at working at a temp agency, a staffing agency, and there you go. And my recruiting career was born. So I felt like because my dad was having an open and honest conversation
Mm.
and sort of helping me with giving me some ideas, but not actually doing it for me. That's the problem. And my husband, who's an educator and works at um, the largest community college in in California, he sees it all the time. Like parents are constantly reaching out to him and being like, "You need to change this transcript or record or this and that." And he's like, "You got to be kidding me."
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you could still be supportive, and it's having those conversations. I don't know about you, Kim, but growing up, we had dinner at the table every single night, and we had to talk about our day. We had to talk about what was going on with school, with sports, with whatever we were doing, and we actually had to communicate. There were no phones. We couldn't just go off and play video games. Like this is what we did, and I feel like that really helped myself and my sister prepare for life
You
after
know,
high school.
and it's funny that you say that because I feel like nowadays it's very easy to do things very online. So it's like
Yes.
I can send an email, I can send a text, and I just scheduled my like dishwasher repair. Didn't talk to a soul. And back
On
in
Angie's list?
the back in the day, I had to physically call dishwasher repair guy and like communicate like what were the issues. And, nowadays I don't have to do that. And I feel like I hear from younger kids the anxiety to have this back and forth that you and I are having right now. And you're right. Because it's so much easier for me to like text or write things down or I don't also have to write a full sentence, but write things down versus figure out how to like in a conversation, how to hold up my end.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm so glad you said that. So that's part of my program is I do a whole thing on mindset, confidence, how to talk to people, how to present. Because here's the thing, like no matter what you do in life, you have to learn how to interview. So I have an interview prep workshop that I facilitate at high schools. And you've got to learn how to just talk to an adult or
Yeah.
another person. Like even if you go to college, you're going to be you'll have projects you're going to have to do. So you're going to have to learn how to work well with others. So that's all the things that goes into preparing someone to launch.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Because I think about, I went to my degree was in marketing. So like a lot of my projects were me standing up in front of the rest of the room and talking about, hey, this is the latest whiz bang, whatever it was that we were supposed to talk about. And, one of my niece's husband, he was talking about how he is a bioengineer. So it's all like geek crap. And he was saying how his whole team, no one wanted to speak. And he was like, what? Like how do you present what we've been working on to get funding? He was in biotech. So like, you're always like trying to keep the money you got or get more money. And he's like, no one here wants to talk about the work we've been doing. And he was like, fine, I'll do it. And he just did it by like, I need this job and I need to keep the project funded. But it's like, everyone just kind of like looked down and like, don't pick me. And it's interesting that in schools, like that isn't like pushed out. Like, I mean, I know when I went to school in the 90s, that was like, you have to learn how to present your idea. Like for me, I was like, I knew I'd be standing in front of clients trying to sell them on whatever the hell I was trying to sell them on. But even as a scientist, like you have to stand in front of the CEO and be like, this is how I'm using your money.
Exactly. And like, so in my recruiting career, I have done a ton of tech hiring. And so I've hired engineers, architects, I've hired, you name it, I've hired. But engineers they're innately not extroverts, right?
No.
So they're very much good with coding and this and that. And so it's very hard for them to present. And when I was, part of the interview process was doing a bunch of whiteboarding and doing like assignments where you have to present your code and your finding. And it was challenging. A lot of people failed that part. They did. And then when I was hiring leadership in engineering, they have to have that balance of coding and then also being a people person. So where you're actually, communicating to your team.
Yeah, no, and and it's interesting because it's like we've really lost the art of communication because it's so much easier for me to sit here at my desk and shoot you an email versus get off my ass, walk 3 cubes over and ask you a question.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it.
So, what happens to these kids like long terms when, we are like, I'm going to use the word coddling, but I don't know if that's the right word. If we are kind of like creating this world where like, I don't have to talk to people that, someone else is going to fight my battles for me. Like, what happens to people in the long term when we do this? Like, what are the skills that they're missing?
So that's a great question. And this is just my 2 cents, okay? Because I've seen it with some people. I've seen it that, unfortunately, there's someone I know who's about 50 years old who's still living at home. And the problem is some of these people, they lack confidence.
Yeah.
They don't have the work readiness. They don't have the necessary life skills. And more importantly, they don't really have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, listen, you can even if you need to stay at home, you still need to figure out what it is you're going to do,
Yeah.
right? So that's why my program, I talk a lot about internships, trade schools, jobs. Like you still got to do all of that while you're at home. So what I like to talk to families about is let's have a timeline.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Because then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And so at least the family knows, okay, so my kid is going to be at home for a little bit because it's too expensive. They don't know what they want to do. They got to figure it out, save money, etc. But there has to be a timeline. It can't be you could just stay at home and live at home forever. Like that's just
Right.
okay. Because again, like not to sound morbid, but what's going to happen when you're gone?
Yeah.
You
No,
know, I mean,
agreed.
it's so really it's launching is so much about like those life skills.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Because it's like, we were talking before we hit the play button. And just, when I first moved out on my own, like and I don't know if it's just a United States thing or if it happens at other countries do a better job, but like I knew that like my mom paid bills, but I didn't know exactly like light bill and heat and like, all these things that I was just like, whoa, there's all of these moving parts to life that I had no idea.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing, Kim, is like I know it's scary. And so for you parents out there, I know it's so scary to feel like you can't control what happens to your child.
Right.
And obviously, you want your child to be successful and happy and live an independent life. But the only way to do that is to really let them and help them fly the nest.
And, as you're talking, one of the big things is, I know that I hear people our age, we talk and we're like, oh,
Mhm.
remember back in the day when we used to have to like calculate how much money we could spend at the grocery store, like how much gas you could put in the car. And like we talk about it
Yes.
and with like the good old days. And I'm thinking, our parents thinking like, that was how we started. And I don't want my kids to have that same.
Yes, a lot of it is trauma. A lot of it is like, oh my God, I struggled so much. I struggled so much. So again, I have another friend who grew up not like it was a struggle. And he is very successful now, makes a ton of money, can afford anything. And one of his kids lives at home. And he just doesn't want that kid. He doesn't want his daughter to go through what he went through. And
Right, right,
she's
right.
so smart, so smart, so smart. Guy has a college degree, like really is a smart kid.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you talk about this because I see this in the women that I coach, right? They've spent decades following the rules, the plan, someone else telling them what to do, but at some point they stop trusting themselves. Or maybe they never learn how to trust themselves. So like, do you see that connection there? Like we're always stepping in for our kids. We're always kind of reinforcing the same pattern, like look outside for the answer versus kind of like, I need you to sit in it, Johnny, and kind of figure out your path. Like, kind of like what your dad did. It's like, this is what I see you're good at. Maybe do some research.
Yes. Like, yes, do research. I mean, there's so many things there. Here's the thing. There are so many more resources today
Oh God,
than there
yes.
were when you and I were going through
Oh my
this. I
God.
mean,
It was
it's
like
insane.
you had to go to the library for some shit.
Oh my
Then it
God.
was like you had to find the right librarian to tell you which direction to point yourself in. And
Yes.
then you had to read it. Like right now I could go into Chat GPT and be like, I want to be a blah blah blah. What are the steps?
Yes. Oh my God. Exactly. Like, no joke. No joke. I mean, you literally could go into AI and do everything. Like, it just helps you. However, I will say, even though AI is at our fingertips and it's exploding and it's not going anywhere, it doesn't replace actual human
Agreed.
contact and human one-on-one coaching. Like that's why like it's still imperative to find to get to help your child either with therapist or coaching because it's that human connection. Like, because again, the goal is to get your kid to find a career that they want
Right,
and
right.
grow in their career, and that's still human.
Yeah. No, and I think for us, it was kind of like you trying to decide like what do you want to be when you grow up? And like, you only
Mhm.
thought about like what you saw, right? It's
Yeah,
like what were your parents? What were your friends' parents? Like, what
exactly.
were your
Right.
family members? So you only
Mhm.
kind of knew what you saw, where like now, like it's so much broader, which makes it a little bit harder to be like, what it is that you want to be with you grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because I think, this is the hard part, right? Like we go back from like wanting to be everything to our
Mhm.
kids and like helping them. They don't want to struggle to like how to like you take that step back without feeling like you're pushing your kid off that cliff. Like, where
Yes.
is that kind of like that fine line?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I know parents really it's all about not wanting their kid to fail.
Right. Oh, and I get it. Like, it's we all want to skip to the good part, right? Like, we all want to skip to the good part, but I also see like the life that I led when I was 25 and the life that my niece lives at 25. And I was like,
Mm.
we have a different lifestyle. Like I wasn't
Well,
going to brunch every weekend. I wasn't flying to so and so's bachelorette party in Ibiza. And
oh my God.
I like
Yes.
there it was like if my friend had a bachelorette party, I was driving 2 hours maybe.
Yeah. It's oh my God. The way that I lived and my sister compared to my nieces, it's like, yeah. I mean, one of my nieces, she is going to Paris this summer for 3 weeks to do the cordon bleu, cooking school. And I'm like, oh my God, she's 15.
Right. You're like, I was going down the street to LA cooking class and I had to take the bus.
Working at a frozen yogurt place. And then I was a camp counselor. So yeah.
Yeah. So, let's make this real for people. Like, what does support look like without being like, okay, Johnny, live here forever? Because I am 100% agreement with you. Like, I have no problem helping anybody with anything, but it is not unlimited, right? I need you to like get your shit together and be like, this is a 90-day thing. This is a 6-month thing so that it doesn't feel like you're just kicking the can down the line. Then I get resentful. So how do we help without
Well,
putting them on the payroll? Like, where do we like kind of start to draw that line?
yeah. So I think support can look like in a lot of different things. It can be like, it's having those, it's having a family meal, whether it's having a family meal at the dinner table, whether it's going out and like having like a heart to heart kind of tough love but supportive conversation, being like, okay, I'm okay with you staying at home, but only for this amount of time. Like, let's
Mm,
plan out, let's give it a time, like a time frame. Okay, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or even 1 year. But it needs it I feel like the parents kind of need to phrase it like this is not like a free hotel with no
yeah.
responsibility, right? So it's doing like chores or contributing, maybe buying groceries once a month if money's really tight. It's, being respectful with all types of communication. It's participation in family life. But more importantly, it's agreed upon. Everything has to be agreed upon. So agreed
Right.
upon routines, agreed upon, chores, and the biggest thing is setting expectations. It starts with setting expectations. Like you can't like have the kid stay at home and then there's no expectation. And then all of a sudden
You
in
throw
three,
them out
six,
there.
exactly. It's like, wait, what? Because you have to have an expectation. So it's also structure, like making sure that the kid is not just sitting around watching TV, eating Doritos and bonbons. It's planning for the future. So whether it's
Right.
hiring a coach or it's it's getting, it's getting a part-time job. It's doing something that creates structure and accountability.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like asking yourself, like, what are they, even I have friends who are like, their kids are in grad school. So it's like, great, you're in grad school, but
Yeah.
there is downtime, right? Not in school 24/7. So it's
Right,
like in that
exactly.
downtime, but also, when we get to a certain level at grad school, it's like, okay, what's the next chapter?
Exactly. Whether it's grad school, just graduating college, graduating high school, not maybe a 4-year school is not your path. I mean, that's a big part of my program is, also just again, in this day and age with AI taking a lot of corporate jobs, trades,
Yeah.
it's learning a skill. So you're right. Like there's 8 hours in a day. So you're not, whether you're in school or whatever, you're not doing school for 8 hours a day, and you
Right.
can't just do your thing, live at home, and all you do is hang out with your friends or play
Right.
video games. Like there has to be some structure. So
Right.
maybe it's carving out maybe an hour. If 2 hours feels like a lot, it's an hour a day of figuring out what it is you're going to do. So whether it's doing research on particular jobs, whether it's finding a trade potentially and doing research on that, whether it's filling in applications for internships or jobs or colleges. There has to be some structure. Put it in your calendar.
Yeah.
So I live by my calendar. Everything is in my calendar. I can't function.
Yeah.
Like I will forget. I will just, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, this is in my calendar. I have to do this.
Right.
And it's also like for parents, it's actually, again, it's working on the communication. It's having weekly check-ins.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it's setting goals for the week.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Now, this is great for like people like, all right, this makes sense before I get there. But what if I'm in it, right? I'm in
And
it.
like, what do you mean?
I did all the things you said I shouldn't do. So my kid's been living at home. I don't have any rules. I don't have anything. They've been on the payroll for decades. Like, how do I start this transition without feeling like I'm the bad guy? Right. So it's like, if let's use an example, my kid's 30 and I've been paying half their rent. At what point can I say, when I have this conversation, is it 6 months and you're going to have to find a way to pay your whole rent? How do I kind of start to kind of pull back a little bit?
Yeah. So it's really about, again, like, okay, so let's say it already happened, like you just said. It already happened. I'm going to use your words. We're in it. So it's kind of being like, okay, the parent is like, all right, we made the mistake by allowing them to live at home for this long. Now, but now, like, you can always change it. Just because you're in the situation, it doesn't mean it can't change. It doesn't mean that you have to just continue to be in it and let the kids stay at home until they're 40 and 50. It's like, okay, we're in it. I should have done this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. No, not 20, but like 10 years ago.
Right.
It is what it is. So now it's like, okay, so now got to make a change, because the parent and the family, they also have to work on a growth mindset, right? So they also have to work on how are they going to now change the situation. And it's okay to change. This is family. So it's being like, it's having that, like, maybe it's too hard to have that kind of conversation at home. So you guys go out for a walk, or you go get ice cream, or you go to dinner, and you're like, all right, I know this is what's been going on for a while, but we need to talk about the future. We have to, like, we're at a point now where we really need to, like, get you to launch. And so it's having a very honest, but coming from compassion, I think, kind of tone of like, okay, you're 30 years old. We got to get you to leave. We love you so much. And I'm married. And so I always talk about, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is all about that in this time because it's delicate. So you want to just start with the positives of being like, I love you so much. This has been incredible. I'm so happy that we've been able to spend so much time together and that, you're I mean, I don't know if you have to make stuff up or not, but like, like you're 30 years old and you got to be like, look, I think this is going to be healthier for our relationship and for you, but we have to like time to really, really buckle down and get you to live an independent life. And it's going to be so, so beneficial to you and for me and for us. And just have sort of that type of conversation. And it can be like, look, you can even phrase it like living at home is not the issue. It's about being emotionally and practically independent.
Yep.
And the fact that you're still here, you're staying in an independent cycle. And sort of talk more about that and be like, okay, let's have you give like maybe once a month, you'll give us, more rent, or let's have you like, even if the family wants to help them build, like do things around the house so they can start to see if like, hey, maybe I'm good with my hands or I'm good at like, maybe it can be a plumber or like just helping, like giving them some responsibilities. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
I'm going to be super vulnerable and honest out there in this podcast world, but I flew the nest the minute I graduated high school. I did a gap year. And then I came back over the summer. I was a camp counselor, and then I tried to go to community college, but again, school was not for me. But I was an intern. I worked at a sandwich shop. So I was very, I was learning how to be an adult. And I moved away. I moved to San Francisco for 8 years. I went to New York, and then I went back to San Francisco. And then after 12 years of flying the nest and being independent and living on my own and all of that, I had to move back home at age 30.
Yeah.
I lived at home at 30 years old for 5 years. And it was so hard for me.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for my parents, and it was not healthy and it wasn't good. But at the time, I had to build up some of my life again because some things happened in San Francisco and I needed to, I just couldn't live. I couldn't. So what I'm saying though, but even though I was living at home at 30 years old, back home, but I did leave, I developed some even more life skills, and I was pounding the pavement looking for jobs. I was getting myself out there. So I was still doing the things I needed to do to move out again. And I did, obviously I did. But I mean, it's important. I'm just saying it's really important to fly the nest and to be an independent.
And, so I have like two questions. So question one, building on what we have just been talking about. So I see that, so you've already kind of said, I'm paying the rent, or you're living at home and we're having this conversation. And it's kind of like, at this point together, you guys sit down and you start that, okay, we've been doing this for decades, maybe years, whatever. Do you start that kind of like, what does the kind of like the faucet turn off look like? So it's kind of like you have 18 months and to figure out if this apartment isn't for you. Do you need roommates? Do you need to move to a different town? Whatever.
I think so. Again, I really think it's not a one size fits all.
Gotcha.
So it is all about like what works for our family.
Gotcha.
So some families, it's going to be like, you have 3 months.
Yeah.
Some it will be 6 and some will be a year, but there has to be
the conversation.
There has to be. You cannot just say, okay, you've graduated high school or college and it's too expensive to move out and just live at home. It's like, no, because then, okay, so then 1 year goes by, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know what I'm saying? There
Next thing you know, they're moving the husband and the wife, the husband or the girlfriend in.
And also like, you're not like, here's the truth. No one wants to date someone who's living at home
They do not.
as an
But
adult.
but honestly, I kind of feel like nowadays, like some of the things that when you and I were in the dating world, if you told me you lived at home and there was not like my mom is bedridden or there was like there had to be some cataclysmic reason for you to live at home, I'd be like, and scene.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Right. And the thing is, though, the longer a child lives at home, for the parent or parents, resentment will build,
Oh God, yes.
guilt and confusion will build. The parent feels trapped between compassion and frustration
Mm,
and fear, and it's and really is fearful about what happened and that what happens when I'm not here. It's like what I said, like 10 minutes ago. It's like I'm not trying to be morbid, but the parents are not going to live forever. So
yeah,
then what happens?
right. Do you know how to fly the nest? And so,
Yeah,
but I
stand on your
also
2 feet.
But I also hear that mom being like, like I'm the mama bear, and like
Uh-huh.
if
I
I
get that a
don't
lot. Hmm.
if I don't help, like I'm gonna be a mom forever. Like if I don't help, the world's gonna fall apart. Well, it's like I feel like when we were growing up, our parents were like, I got you to 18.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, you don't stop being a parent when your kid graduates or leaves the house. You're always going to be a parent. You're always going to be there and support them and help them. But the relationship has to move into more of a friendship.
Gotcha.
And
S-
you know what I'm saying?
No, I see what you're basically you're like, when they were like newborns, like they didn't know crap. So you had to be the person who's like,
Yeah.
don't put your hand on the stove. And like, this is, don't talk to strangers. Like, but now after, let's say 20 years, 22 years, you've taught them all the things that you can teach them. And now it's time for them to learn whatever lesson it is that they might need to learn in their path forward.
And honestly, and I'm going to say something that, I mean, you've got to fail.
You do. I mean, I
There's
think
no way you can go through life without failing.
well,
I mean, Bill Gates failed. Mark Zuckerberg failed. Mark Cuban failed. I mean, these are all some really big players out there. Everyone fails, but it's how you handle that failure. But if you're being coddled all the time, you're not going to have that resilience.
And, I feel like nowadays that, when we grew up, there were placement, right?
Mhm.
Not everyone got a trophy. Like if I didn't finish in the top 3, hey, that was it. Where, nowadays, like everyone gets a participation trophy
I
and,
know.
you know,
It's crazy.
or it also extends the other way. Like I have to get it perfect, right? That I'm being graded on life, right? Being graded on everything I do. And if I'm not in the AP of like, paying bills, then why do it?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's it's really doing your child a disservice.
And I feel like nowadays that has really been the emphasis. I feel like it was you're in 500 different activities to get
Mhm.
into college, and you're taking all of these crazy advanced courses. So you're spending so much time, studying or, shuttle to here, there, and everywhere that we don't really have that like downshift time. And so when you do get that downshift time as an adult, you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah, exactly, Kim. Exactly. Oh, these times, man,
Yeah.
but and I know it's scary out there. Listen, I so get it, but there I mean, it's part of being it's life. You
Yeah.
got to be resilient. You have to have a growth mindset. You
Yeah.
You
So,
have to be willing.
so if someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, this really like kicked me in the shin, shook me by, it shook me by the shoulders, like,
Uh-huh.
other than the big conversation, which I think is huge, and I'm sure you're going to have to like swallow your pride a lot, and maybe might take you 30 days just to even think about having this conversation. What's like one small shift that they can start to make like this week before the big talk?
I don't know if it's a shift, but here is a huge question that they should be asking themselves. Okay. The question is not just, are they paying because paying rent, or are they, the question is, are they growing?
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I think parents need to think about and talk out loud. Are they growing?
It's funny that you say that, because so many times you'll hear this, and you probably hear this more than I do. Sharon, she's such a good kid. Johnny, she's such a good kid. Like everyone's kid, like no one ever says my kid's a shithead. Like no one ever says that. Everyone's such a good kid, but that's the nail on the head. Like, has my kid grown? And that your kid has grown in some way or capacity. And if they're just like bumping along, like you got to help them not bump along.
Yes. And I think parents just need to constantly ask themselves, is my kid growing?
Yeah.
Honestly, because that's the crux of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And this has been like, Liz and I have known each other for like 3 months now. And we're like, oh my God, we have to talk. Oh my God, we have to talk. And so and this conversation has been like everything that I wanted, that like, I wanted to have that like, oh shit moment for some of you guys listening. But I also wanted it to I knew Liz has compassion. So she's not just being like, you suck. She's like, you suck, but here's how we can make it better. And so Liz, where can people find you on the socials or even on the internet?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. They can go to my website, which is lizlewine.com. So it's LEWIN as in Nancy E.com. My email is coachliz@lizlewine.com. I am on Instagram, but it's not really about my coaching. It's like personal. I have a LinkedIn, which is my whole background in recruiting, and my coaching, which is my LinkedIn is just my first name, my first and last name, Liz Lewine. So, and LinkedIn is Liz Lewine too.
And don't worry about having to like try to pull over and try to write all this down. It will be in the show notes for you guys to connect with Liz. And Liz, I ask everybody this question before we get off. Like, what is the one thing that makes you feel magical?
Ooh, that makes me feel magical? That's a great question. I think it would be really my compassion. Because I really care. I really care. And I know this is hard. And I know it is hard, but there is a way to help.
Yeah. It's funny. I asked over 300 and something episodes, and I've never heard the same answer. And every person's like magic is just like, I'm like, oh, that's good. Like, So every single person has such a good way to bring that. So Magic Makers, this has been such a good conversation. I think a lot of people needed to hear it. And because at the end of the day, like, we're just trying to raise good kids, right? No one wants to raise assholes, but no one also you also want to be able to make sure that your kids aren't living with you forever. So we're just trying to raise humans that trust themselves, that feel like you're like, look at you. I want you to look out and be like, I did that. I did a good job. They're good humans. And Liz, thank you so much for this open and frank conversation.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so happy that we were finally able to talk, connect, and do this.
And Magic Makers, reach out to Liz, because even if it's like, how the hell do I structure the conversation, right?
Yeah.
This is, I think this conversation might be harder than having the sex talk. So reach out to...
Oh my God, that is so true.
I don't think there's a book on this yet, but like, it'd be easy to be like, birds and bees, good luck. But I think this conversation is going to be a little tougher, a little more awkward about this. But you can do it. I got faith in you. And Magic Makers, if any of this like really struck a nerve, screenshot it and be sure to tag us on the socials. And again, thank you, Liz, so much for having taken the time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kim. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.